Tabletop Radio. Can you talk to me about that?
Yes, you can purchase a Grace Tabletop Radio, and Freedom Slips is on the channel list.
Nice, very nice. There you go, guys. We've gone all high tech, and it makes it easier for you to listen. And yes, look, I was away for 2 weeks. I didn't plan to be. I was hoping that my, I guess my places where I stayed would have some kind of Wi-Fi. One of them did, but only in the lobby, and the lobby was overcrowded with people at all hours, and it wouldn't have been a very good listening experience for you guys. So thank you, Dave, for picking up the slack. I really appreciate it. And Dave did a great job, right? Let's give him a hand. Here you go. Beautiful. Thanks, Dave.
Nice. Snaps for me.
Snaps for you. Yes, look, I have been away. I've been away in Southeast Asia, China as well. We're going to talk a little bit about that. There was actually a method to my madness going there. So spent some time in Singapore, some time in Hong Kong, and some time in Xi'an, the ancient Chinese capital, which also is home to the Terracotta Warriors and the Chinese pyramids. So we'll chat about that. We'll talk about a few other things. Dave, how have you been holding up?
I'm okay. I've had a lot of fun the last 2 shows. It's almost like Dave Radio.
Dave Radio.
I'll tell you what I did. I think it was pretty fun. If you haven't caught it, just for everyone out there, I did some role-play roundtables, which were pretty fun. I think everyone had fun. The listeners had fun. They said they hadn't had that much fun listening to a radio show since, well, they don't remember. But it was good otherwise. The weather's been unusual. It's a 27-degree day in autumn. For those who don't know, that's actually lovely.
It's unseasonably warm for Australia. That's
it's unseasonably warm. It's about 9 degrees above normal. But it's I'm not going to complain. I certainly won't complain about global warming. Just batten down the hatches when you need to and open up the skylight when it's favourable. That's
no such thing. Dave, come on, there's no global warming. I heard it on the news, and this guy, what's his name, said it too, right?
The opposition leader said, there was no such thing as global warming. Yeah.
Yes, no, there isn't, and you know what? There was funny weather everywhere I went, and where I went, they actually have the monsoon season around the equator. Yeah, and unfortunately, though, the monsoon season kept right on, even though it was meant to be finished. So it was bucketing down in Singapore, and it was bucketing down in Hong Kong. Not for the whole trip. And then I went to Xi'an, and I thought it was all foggy. Not quite. It was smoggy. Imagine
That's not fog, Mac.
No, it's not. Imagine the Industrial Revolution, 1900s, Great Britain and Germany, times 1,000, with much bigger coal burners. Okay, that's what we're looking at. All the cars in Xi'an are permanently soot covered. It's actually hilarious. A driver we had washes his car every night, comes to pick us up. It was soot covered. It's quite funny. Look, but Dave's right. Weather patterns are changing. I don't know if you guys have been following the news. There were some awful things that happened, but the one thing I think that we want to focus initially before we go into the other awful things are the earthquakes. Has anybody noticed? And you can put your hand up here because I can see you. Has anybody noticed that there were quite a lot of earthquakes just in the last week and quite powerful ones, above the 7 mark? Dave, did you notice that?
Yeah, completely.
So your hand is up. That's good.
My hand is up, and as though the people in the chat room don't know, we have a production meeting before the show, and that was one of the things we had discussed. Surprise! You just keep free-balling like that. That's awesome.
Yeah, look, I want to since January, I just want to go through the list of anything over a 7. Okay, so I'm going to start with the most powerful one, which was an 8 in Santa Cruz Islands, February 6th. There was a 7.8 Iran-Pakistan border. April 16, a 7.5 in Alaska, in Craig, which is a little township there. January 5, then a 7.2 in the Kuril Islands. It's part of Russia, up in near Kamchatka. On April 19, then again the Santa Cruz Islands with a 7.1 on February 6, and Santa Cruz Islands with a separate earthquake, not an aftershock, on February 6 with a 7 as well. And then on February 8, again the Santa Cruz Islands we probably won't see them much longer, with another 7. In Colombia, on February 9, we had a 7, and Indonesia, April 6, had a 7 as well. Dude, that's pretty bad.
Mm-hmm. Look, if you, there's a couple of really good places to derive your quake information from, and we've been looking at a couple of those. Some do comparisons between 2000 and 2013, for instance, right, Mac?
That's right.
They categorized it in above 8 and above 7, so in the 7 to 7.9, in the 6 to 6.9, and a 5 to 5.9. Everything from 6 and up, if you extrapolate out this current quarter and times it by 4, will exceed every past year since 2000 in the quantity of quakes.
Oh, but Dave, that can't mean anything, surely?
Oh, really? Because I've got an application on my phone that I love this thing, and it's awesome. It gives me warnings all the time. It's a smartphone app, and I think it's just quite simply called Quakes. Earthquake alert with an exclamation point at the end, and the picture of the previous day's quakes, the past 24 hours, and it's updated continually. It looks like it used to a long time ago, like in the 80s. Yeah, it's just I've been watching this stuff from when I could get access to it, and I was always fascinated with the Chinese. Is it the seven heads, the dragon's heads with the balls? Or
Yes.
6 of them, like it's a large urn,
yes.
And it has a ball in its mouth, and depending on how many balls fell out because of the movement, that would be how they classified the quake.
Oh, right. Yes. You're quite right. Quite ingenious, in fact.
I always picture it as though the entire building has collapsed, and they're asking, "Did you see how many balls fell out?" So that's in the extreme quake. I actually asked that question when I was in Hong Kong once. So Meki, what about the deaths? Are we equal on the deaths, or what are we looking at?
No deaths.
Centuries.
Yeah, no, well, there are more. There are a lot more deaths. It's a horrible thing, but essentially, if you look at it, there's spikes in death. You know, there seem to be periods every 30 years or so, and this is really interesting. Like we had a spike in deaths in the 1920 to 29 period, so the 20s of the 19th century, we had about 400,000 deaths, right? And then we had another spike in the 70s, 70 to 79, we had another 418,000 deaths. And then in the period from 2000 to 2009, we hit 471,000 deaths. Okay, in those at the end of those periods. And as you can see, those periods are getting closer together. And that, of course, has to do with the fact that we're more settled now. There are more urban centers near earthquake zones. And I don't know if you remember, but China, Turkey, places like that are being hit very badly, and that means one of many things is the fact that the building standards aren't as high, so the buildings aren't withstanding the quakes as they would, for example, in Japan or even in LA, where the building standards are a little bit more strict. So if you are hitting an urban area which was built with substandard materials and substandard engineering principles, you will find that your death toll would factor, by 10s and 20s. So instead of having thousands of deaths, you have hundreds of thousands of deaths. But having said that, so the death toll, of course, is rising because there's simply more people on the planet. But the extreme quakes seem to be boxing closer together.
Well, they are.
Yeah.
And guess what? I've just done the maths. So right now, at the highest point in those 3 spikes, which were, as you said, Meki, 1920s at 402,000 deaths. Actually, yep. To the 1970 to 79 range, which was 418,000.
Yep.
To the 2009, which was the 471,000.
Close to 500,000. That's pretty bad.
Yeah. Now we're already at 342,000. And we're only in 2013.
Yeah, so this is for the period from 2010 to 2019. That's the projection here, guys.
Yep, and we're at 72%. so far.
Yep, and we're not even halfway through the decade.
Mm-hmm.
So what this means
Extrapolate that out, man.
Yeah, it's quite macabre, but what we're seeing is an increase in magnitude earthquakes along the Rim of Fire. But not only that, but also around the Central Asian Plateau, it seems, Pakistan, Iran, Turkey, those areas. But certainly the Ring of Fire is extremely active, right from the north down to the south, which is Papua New Guinea, and down into the Pacific. And it's a worrying thing, and you're right, Dave. If we can extrapolate these numbers, we should, and this is horrible, but we should reach 1 million deaths from earthquakes by the end of the decade, and that's really horrible if you think about it. Yeah. So, and this is only directly related deaths. If you think about the consequences, for instance, of the Fukushima earthquake, which was, of course, an underwater earthquake, which then caused the tsunami, the death toll is much, much higher because obviously there was radiation leakage and so forth. So these things can happen. Again, an industrial complex could be hit, a chemical plant could be hit. Who knows, right? And the knock-on effect of these things is almost immeasurable.
There's also famine and disease, yeah?
Yeah, 100%. We still don't know what the Fukushima impact is overall, and we probably won't know it for another 40 or so years to see, if there are increased cancer deaths from the radiation and, and so forth. So it is horrible. But well, what do we want you to do? Well, we want you to be prepared. Dave and I would like you to be prepared, and just as much as you can. We can't all spend our time prepping. There's a great show on TV, season 2 now, called Preppers. And they're all prepping for certain things, right? And that's cool, yeah? But we can't all spend our time and money only on that. So be aware, have some way to make fire. If you're in the States or in a country where you're allowed to have firearms, I suggest you get them. Some ammunition, knives, MRIs, which are, like food rations, which won't perish, and water. You can live 3 minutes, I'm talking about average, 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water, and 3 weeks without food. These are averages, of course. That's stretch.
That's right. Depending on your health.
Yeah, of course. So air and water, guys, right? So water is really paramount, that you have clean, and this is really the thing, clean and safe drinking water available to you. Food you can scavenge, I guess, but make sure you've got some rations and then ration it out, because you can live a lot longer than you think on very little food. There's stories of guys in the mountains, the Himalayas, the Rockies, doesn't matter, that were stranded, caught by an avalanche, some kind of other freak accident, and they survived on a Mars bar and a handful of raisins, right? So for weeks, you can do something similar. It's amazing what the human spirit can endure. Now that was pretty sobering, Dave.
Let's go. I think that's a great segue. So we've covered earthquakes and being able how to elongate your life. I stumbled upon a news story just this afternoon, which is the Nestle CEO says water is not a human right and should be privatized. What?
Yeah, hey,
Crazy.
look. I should do my Baktun thing now. But you're right, Dave. I mean, this is a first step. We've seen this happen in a lot of, I call them third world countries, developing countries, doesn't matter. So what the World Bank does, goes in, says, look, we will give you a loan, but you have to follow these rules. Boom, 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 boom. And part of the rules is the privatization of utilities, including water. And there was a massive case, I think it was Bolivia, it was somewhere in South America, where they did that. And the price of water overnight tripled or even quadrupled or whatever it was. It went up through the roof, and the people protested, and that decision was reversed. However, there's a distinct policy, a clear policy by those that know, by those that have the power and the money to privatize utilities and foremost water supplies. And this statement coming, from essentially just a corporate tycoon, yeah?
Mm-hmm. A chocolate manufacturer.
Yeah, well, he needs it. You'd be surprised how much water you need for a chocolate manufacturer. What's next? You're saying, so water, my access to clean drinking water is no longer an inalienable human right. I no longer have that right. I now have to purchase it from the corporations. Whoa! The next thing is air. It has to be, right? You no longer can breathe the air unless you pay someone air tax. Or maybe we'll pollute the air so badly that you will have to purchase air. In Japan, and I think it's started in the States and here in Australia as well, they've opened oxygen bars. So you can go in there and have a whiff of, clean
Of
oxygen.
actual air.
Yeah, actual air. And I'm always reminded of my grandparents. They grew up in a forest, or lived in the forest. My grandfather's a forester, la la la, and they had no choice but to eat organic food because that's all that was there. They had no choice but to drink clean water because that's all that was there, and they had no choice but to breathe clean air because that's all that was there. These days, we've made it so that we are now living in a world where people can charge us a premium for water. Think about it, bottled water. Coca-Cola is in the bottled water business. Coca-Cola doesn't go into a business that doesn't make any money.
I'm not fighting Coca-Cola right now.
No, I'm not. I'm just making the point that there's a lot of money to be made in drinking water, clean drinking water. And in Australia, we actually can drink from the tap, right? I mean, well, I probably would suggest you don't because we also have fluoride in the water. Okay, and
I like every once in a while they tell us that we have Scriptobrydium and Giardia in the water, so you better boil your water, and suddenly water sales go through the roof.
Absolutely. We actually put a water filter into our tap. So, and the water that comes out tastes and smells and feels or looks like clean drinking water, and has none of this chemical aftertaste. And Dave, you live in a forest, right?
Mm-hmm.
In fact, on top of a mountain, underneath a precariously perked rock.
That's okay. That's just that'll be the will of some planet creator, whether that moves or not. But yes, we have. Obviously, I'm deep within a bunker at the moment, safe from any moving rocks.
Yes, that's. Not that rock. I don't think anyone can be safe from that rock. Sorry, it's not gonna happen. It's a massive, guys. It's a massive boulder that's hanging over Dave's house, and good luck to Dave with that boulder. But yeah, look, we've got a bit of good feedback from the chat room as well here. JMJ12. Saying that we already have buying back the water rights in Australia. That's correct. And tones, oxygen tolls on highways. That'll happen pretty soon. And it's a problem, guys, because we're just letting it happen. We've started to let it happen with the food, Monsanto and company, right? We've let it happen. Absolutely, it's horrible. Even our own DNA. We're letting it happen to some point. I mean, it's not like somebody invented this DNA, even the foodstuffs, right? They just make changes to it. And they go, oh, no, that's now my gene. Thank you very much. You can't have it. And if you do, then I can sue you. If we let it happen...
the phrase, Mickey, remember the phrase, you are what you eat.
Yeah.
I don't think that was just made up. I think that's completely true.
It's a fact. I mean, think about it this way. Your body is no longer the body that you were born in. What do I mean by this? So you're born, you got a certain number of cells, and as you grow, cells multiply, other cells die, your skin is shed, you've got certain layers. But I think every 15 or 20 years, I don't know the exact number, I have to look it up for you guys, all the cells in your body are renewed. And alcohol consumption and tobacco smoking and so forth actually accelerates that cell renewal, if you will. Okay, so you no longer inhabit the same body that you inhabited in the beginning. Why is this important? It's important because, well, all the material that your body is made up of, you've actually eaten or drunk or somehow ingested, right? Mm-hmm. And so everything that you consume makes up your body, and therefore all the material that is within that food and drink and so forth enters your body at a molecular level. Okay, so that can very much affect your DNA as well, because cell division is at the very smallest growth that you have in your body, and it needs to be fueled from outside food sources. So it's very important what you eat, Dave. You're 100% correct. You are what you eat. Diseases are caused by what you eat, and you might be genetically predisposed, but there's certainly things you can do against getting them. And if you eat the wrong foodstuffs, you will just exacerbate the problem.
Mm-hmm. Also, we've found that for all of those diesel engine drivers out there, don't be too hurt by this, that the fractured material that comes out of the exhaust of a diesel engine can be breathed in as a micro particulate, and it'll traverse your cells.
Wow.
and it's attracted to muscle tissue.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm. They've just finished the studies in Los Angeles, one of the pretty heavy diesel consuming areas, and it lays in hot times when there's still air. It sort of pools in valleys, and they've found clusters of heart problem people in those pools. They've also measured the air quality and found it to be the only difference between that and where they're not having heart problems is the microparticulates from diesel engines.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's scary.
I am not kidding.
That's scary. Now, let me relate something to you just on that, because, like I said, I've just come back from China, and specifically Xi'an, which is pretty much smack bang in the middle of China, and for the longest time was its capital. The pollution there is so horrible that when I landed, when the plane landed at the airport, and it's one of those old-fashioned airports where you go down the stairs and you go across the tarmac to a bus.
You're outside.
Yeah, you're outside, right? And I thought it was foggy. Oh, yeah, okay, that works, So okay, it was early in the morning, so I thought, fog makes sense. And then we drove to the city, 45-minute ride on a beautiful highway. I can tell you, I'm from Germany. I know the Autobahn. This is not. This is equivalent, if not better, to the Autobahn in Germany. So great infrastructure. So we're driving for 45 minutes. The fog doesn't go away. Now we're driving at 120, 140 kilometers an hour, right? So it's a fair journey. We're traveling at probably 100k. There is not one part where the fog lifts. I didn't see any blue sky. I'm thinking, okay, it's very foggy. Yeah. So I also see building sites. Scores of building sites with 30, 40 story apartment buildings going up in clusters of 6 to 10. So, like this is housing for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. So, okay, so we're driving. Get to the city, the fog gets denser. That's interesting. And everybody says, yeah, it's just fog. Sure, it'll lift tomorrow. The next day came along, and mind you, I was only there 2 days. The fog did not lift. It was, in fact, smog, okay? It was covering the buildings in the distance. It never lifted really. You saw there was one moment, maybe for half an hour during the second day, where I could see a glimpse of blue sky, but the pollution is so bad. Like I said, if our driver would wash the car at night, and when he comes in the morning to pick us up, it would be covered in soot. And people smoke a lot as well, right? So I don't think it makes a difference. But I noticed the difference. I ran a bit, and my lungs were clogged, and when I blew my nose, I had blood in it on the second day, and I coughed up a little blood as well. That wasn't so good. Nothing bad. It was just something in my throat, I think. So it's really, really bad pollution. So,
hang on. What happened when you got back here?
When I got back to Australia,
mm-hmm.
It was unbelievable. I mean, the air was so clean. I've been coughing a lot, right, and I've been hawking up a few things, but the air was incredibly clean. When
Did you go for a run when you came back?
I did.
How did you feel?
I felt horrible.
Oh.
I felt horrible, and I couldn't complete the distance I normally complete in the time that I normally completed in, and I felt like my lungs were clogged. Okay, now so you spit, and it's not very appetizing, but you clear your lungs that way. But the pollution was really, really bad. And just to come back to charging for water and charging for air. The water in China you can't drink from the tap. You're being warned against that. Same in Hong Kong. So bingo, you have to buy your water, right? And secondly, I can see some very smart businessmen selling clean air in Xi'an. Xi'an has, I think, 8 or 9 million people. It's a tier 2 city by Chinese standards, but it's massive. And the Jiangxi province has, I think, 30 or 35 million people, which is, almost double what Australia has as a population. And I can see someone going in there and selling clean air in canisters or little bottles and making a killing. And apparently that kind of pollution is just getting worse in Shanghai and Beijing, Guangzhou, Wuhan, places like that. And these are places where millions of people are affected, tens of millions, in fact, right? In the West, we're a little bit better off. We've done away with most of our pollution, surprisingly, and we've added some of our own, like the fluoride in the water. But being on that, it was very interesting to see in China the impact that the news of the Boston bombing had. Dave and I spoke about this, right?
Mm-hmm.
and I was privileged enough to be, unbeknownst to me when I left, but we were actually shown around by someone rather high up in the hierarchy.
Do we call them a dignitary?
You could, I guess, certainly. It was someone who had position within the Jiangxi province.
But they'll remain anonymous.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was quite a bit of skepticism around the reporting around the Boston bombing, another horrible thing that happened, during the Boston Marathon. A lot of skepticism. I was surprised, in fact. I had expected, the Chinese lived in a semi-dictatorship for, 60, 70 years now, so they'll just, take whatever comes their way as gospel. Nope, not so. Even though there's access to CNN, BBC, and all those news stations, it's not being censored that I could see. The skepticism was quite strong. Yeah, go on.
So what was their impression of the Boston bombings and the news in general?
Yeah.
Start with the news in general.
Yeah, the news in general, it was, how can I put this best? It was looked at quite critically, but not critically in a bad sense, but rather, well, is this really true, what's on the news here, right? So there's an awareness that we are, I guess, fed on infotainment in the West. It's not really information; it's more entertainment. Make sure that people watch and such. So that was very interesting, quite critical, in fact, of the reporting. And Boston specifically, some of the items that were reported, how people were injured, there was almost disbelief, because people that apparently knew how bombs explode or whatever, had maybe some military experience. I don't know. They said, well, these kinds of injuries are very unlikely to happen unless it's a shaped charge. Like having legs injured and so forth. So it was very interesting there.
And limbs off.
Yeah, exactly. So there was it wasn't credited with a lot of believability, I should say. Okay, the nature of the injuries. Of course, nobody doubted that the bombings happened, and nobody expressed to me whether or not it was the two brothers that did it or not. But maybe it's just me and my conspiratorial mind. But I sensed a certain disbelief that maybe the perpetrators weren't quite who they said they were. Don't know, can't make a judgment, haven't looked at it in detail myself. Dave, what is your take on this?
Well, I said this 2 weeks ago, that I'm skeptical of the event itself. Yes, it looked great on TV. The big puffs of white smoke. There wasn't any of the telltale, Hollywood Mythbusters styled shockwave coming out. There wasn't that much wind from it. The shockwave didn't. It only slightly flapped the advertising banner down the side of the runway next to down the road, and only because a piece of shrapnel came through that and hit the dude on the leg who was running.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, and you can't say the shockwave was absorbed by all the people standing there, because it was only like 1 or 2 people deep. But then the very next shot is military dressed people, removing, the barricades and everything hopelessly, not even trying to do it like they've been trained to do it. They just ran in trying to do it haplessly. And I'm thinking to myself, why were the military there?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I've been in a city to surf. You, Meki?
Yes.
All right, like the Boston Marathon, like the New York Marathon, the Sydney City to Surf is one of the largest runs on the planet, and I've never seen a military person except for maybe running.
Yeah, I mean, police, yes, of course, but no. In fact, I have never seen military deployed in any city in Australia, and the only time I've seen military on the street was in Canberra, and that was when I was working on some government contracts, and they were walking into the building. Because they work there as well. So, it's very strange.
You see military vehicles driving around, but certainly they're never deployed. And I was skeptical about the use of them for crowd control, since there wasn't a significant enough crowd for me to be able to warrant throwing them in as crowd control if I was the boss.
Mm-hmm.
Like a boss. Sorry, Lonely Island. Watch them on YouTube. I'm still so skeptical of them being there in the first place. It doesn't lend any credence to it. It doesn't show that there was any, that it makes it any more real than having these people there. And my father, who was in the military, as well, he and I thought maybe it would be claimed by the white supremacists, or maybe there'd be a false flag that came out that was North Korean, uni students or something. It made no sense. And then for these people to die in custody, showing them getting into the police cars without injury, and then suddenly they're dead. No one can talk. A dead man can't talk.
Yeah, it's odd. I mean, the of course the elder brother was killed. The younger brother still is alive, and he only communicated one word, which was no. And then he was talking a little bit more, and he said they were going to hit New York next, Times Square, but they couldn't do it because they ran out of gas in the car that they hijacked, and the guy that had been hijacked along with the car ran away, and so that fell through, and he hasn't spoken since. Look. You're on the shiny side out. This is where you are. This is freedomslips.com, and we must question these things. We must ask the questions because we've been lied to before. One time doing something one time is a coincidence. Twice is happenstance, and the third time it's enemy action. And fool me once, my fault. Fool me twice. Sorry, fool me once, it's on you. Fool me twice, it's on me. So this is really what this is about, asking the questions. Dave and I are not saying this is what it is. This is a government conspiracy. This is something that was done by these people or those people. Not at all. What we're saying is ask the questions. Does it add up? Do these things make sense? And the answer is no, not really. Not for a lot of things. And the Boston bombing is just the latest. Will these things happen again and more? Yes, they will, and they will happen more, and more people will get killed. Why do I say this? Because it's the pattern. It's the pattern that we've lived with for a long, long time now, and it's not getting better. And to keep people afraid, in fear, and I spoke about this, in fact, to the Chinese. They said, look, it's clear. If you want to rule people easier, then you keep them in fear. Fear is a very powerful tool. And we are being subjected to that fear because you can no longer defend yourself. And this was a point that was made by one of the guys over there. Mm-hmm. How do you defend yourself? You can't defend yourself against this. How do you do it? You stand in the crowd in the middle of an event, maybe even just in a shop or on a train station or whatever it might be where you happen to be, unfortunate enough as it is, and, someone decides to blow you up. You can't guard against that. There's nothing you can do. And it is this kind of fear, this non-directional fear. It's no longer a country or even an ideology that you have to fear. It's just single individuals, that have the power these days. And they can be exploited by governments, of course. I mean, how could you ever prove any of this? I mean, if these guys could be brainwashed, it could have been them, and they could have been mind-controlled puppets. We know that Montauk exists. We know that these mind control experiments did happen during the Vietnam War. And we know the Germans experimented in the same direction in World War II. We know this is happening.
And post-World War II?
Absolutely.
Russians?
100%. And all of these things are real enough. They're real enough. And there's not a lot that we can do about it except for maybe, talk about it and voice our protest. One day, the day might come where we have to do more. I don't know. Will we just lie down and take it? Will we just all be tattooed? Will we take the chip? I don't know. I hope not. Will we see the depopulation of the planet? Most likely. Right, if Dave and I are right, but this is getting into the very dark corners of the shiny side, right?
Guess what? I'm going to segue that. I can't help it.
Do it.
Mackie, I can't. I'm resisting. I'm attempting to.
Done.
What? Thank you. Ding. What happened at the airport when you arrived?
Right. Yeah. Now this was interesting. Both in Hong Kong and in Xi'an. They had scanners set up, and these were infrared scanners that measured body temperature, right? So every passenger that comes in has their body temperature measured, and we were flying with little children under the age of 10, and they were approached by guards specifically and had their body temperature measured with a portable thermometer. these guys are super paranoid about the H3N9, I think it is, or H5N9 strain of the bird flu. A few people have died already, and it's big news in China, and of course Hong Kong as well, Singapore to some extent. I guess they're not quite as paranoid, but there were some measuring tools there as well. And yeah, they're taking it very, very seriously, guys. This bird flu is coming our way, certainly in Australia.
Which one's that? The H1?
No, it's not H1. It's definitely N9. I can't remember. It's
H. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
I think it's H5 and 9.
Yeah. H5 and N7.
N7, is it? Okay. Yeah, it's the latest one. And we were warned, and this is real, we were warned not to eat any chicken products in China. Of course I did eat chicken in China. I ate a lot of things. But yeah, it was a serious warning, and of course you have to make sure it's cooked through and all kinds of things, right? But yeah, it's taken very seriously. In fact, I think it was in Singapore where they stopped imports as well as Hong Kong of chicken from China, which cost billions. They destroyed a lot of livestock recently as well. So look, it's a real enough thing, and they're taking their measures very, very seriously. The thing is this, and this is very interesting. I didn't know this. The city of Xi'an in China gets 80 million domestic tourists a year. That's 80 million domestic tourists. Apparently, the tourism business, domestic tourism business in China is huge. Only 1.5 million foreign tourists. And you're right, Dave. The new strain of the bird flu has a 20% H5N7. Thank you very much. H5N7 has a 20% mortality rate. Okay, so it's nothing to joke about. Of course, it's usually children and the elderly that are hit by this disease rather than the young and fit. But look,
which is the tragedy of it as well.
Of course, it's and Dave and I have spoken about the depopulation agenda and why that's going to happen, and why the elite needs it to happen, or why we think they need it to happen, and how do you protect yourself against that? Well, not much you can do against disease. I guess live a healthy lifestyle, right? Even that won't protect you 100%, but live a healthy lifestyle, watch what you eat, and if something does happen, if some kind of pandemic does break out, avoid population centers. Don't go to the movies, don't go to rock concerts, stay away from the subway, just stay away from crowds in general, because if someone sneezes, it'll land on you some way or another. It's quite a spread vector, when someone sneezes. In fact, that happened to us in Hong Kong. We're sitting down to eat, and this lady next to us on the table let go a huge sneeze without covering up. And I said, "Oh, thanks. That's great. Thank you very much." Much to everyone's mirth. There was quite a bit of laughter. I said, "It's not funny." I didn't feel any wetness on myself, but it was a massive sneeze. You do cover up, guys. Please, just cover your nose.
Remember that it whatever is your body's trying to get rid of, remember that when you sneeze, it atomizes it like a can of bug spray, and it only takes one of those micro droplets for you to inhale into a nice warm moist part of your nasal cavity, and there you go, you now have it.
Yes.
Remember, if something you can live on a surface, I'm not asking you to become a germaphobe, but in the case there is a pandemic, you need to be already equipped. Don't go to the shops wanting to buy them when it comes around time to do it, because you won't be alive.
Yes. Oh.
You need protective wipes or disinfectant spray. You need to do that and touch every surface with it before you touch it.
And speaking of which, Dave, I just remembered now, every bathroom in China that I went to, every hotel, including Hong Kong, had disinfectant gel. So it's like a hand dispenser. You don't have to touch it.
Like in the hospitals.
Like in the hospitals. Exactly like in the hospitals. You just hold your hand under it and it dispenses enough for you to rub your hands together. So that is being taken quite seriously. And you find them everywhere, these dispensers. I guess I don't know if people use it. Of course, not much use if no one uses it. I did, which was good. but yeah, so it is a real thing, and this is one thing that struck me. Being in Hong Kong, and I don't know, there's a new movie coming out called World War Z with Brad Pitt. It's a zombie epidemic, blah blah blah. Essentially, the pinpoint for this outbreak is in Hong Kong, and or Beijing, but anywhere in China, somewhere in China. I think it's Hong Kong. And when the movie is cut or released for China, it is in fact in India somewhere. It is no longer in Hong Kong, so they had to change that to release it to the Chinese market. But the point is this: now that I've been to Hong Kong, I can tell you, it is a city that is bursting. There's never any space for anyone to do anything but walk and walk somewhere. It is so crowded, you really are elbow on elbow. We walked down Nathan Road, which is maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 kilometers long. It's the main business street in Hong Kong, so from north down to south. Sure. And it was packed. It was packed. It was packed with people. It was packed with people everywhere. And Hong Kong also smells. It is called the Fragrant Harbor. I can tell you why. It is a very smelly city, but it's packed. And if something was to break out in Hong Kong, it would spread like wildfire. There's very little personal space. Not on the subways, not in the streets, not anywhere. It's jam-packed with people. So that's really worrying, you know, when you've got these mega cities coming up. And you've got these mega cities everywhere, like India. You got Calcutta, you got Delhi, you know, which is even worse than that, where people literally live in the street where you try to walk, where you have people setting up houses in the middle of roundabouts and live there and have massive slums. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. There was, I think it was, was it Delhi? I think it was Delhi. There was someone set up house on a roundabout because I guess they can, right? Because the space is at a premium and people just don't have anywhere to live. So sidewalks become apartment blocks. You know, a garbage dump becomes a slum city. It's quite astonishing. Not like it's not quite that bad in China. I mean, everybody seems to have. There seem to be no homeless people in China, which I found interesting. I didn't see any, at least. Yeah, so we're facing a population problem in that respect, and we certainly are not built or designed to live in these massive cities, in these anonymous living quarters. You know, you can have 30,000, 40,000 people to an apartment block, and you never know your neighbor. Human beings weren't designed that way, and it's not a healthy way to live. But the powers that be keep rezoning our cities, so we can build these monstrosities, these apartment buildings, even in Australia. I'm sure it's the same in the States, to make sure that we can cram as many people as possible next to a train station or bus station or whatever it might be. So, you know, we've got the workforce ready to go to work every morning. And for other reasons as well, of course. But, you know, there's definitely an agenda, and this is not really a hidden plan either, of rezoning to make sure that we can pack these people in like cattle, if you will, right? I mean, how can you have a quality of life if you live in these kinds of conditions?
Wow.
Sorry.
No. You know, all I do is extrapolate. I like doing it. My brain has an automatic extrapolation tool which trends stuff in advance.
Is it the Deverprolator?
It may be called that after I'm dead. That is, I don't have any grandiose syndromes or anything. I'm okay. I do believe that whichever nation is currently growing is what the world would more than likely look like. Because I think the mentality, if you pictured Greenland, for instance, everyone would be using geothermic power and we'd have a beautiful planet. If Greenland was the dominant power right now, for instance, the US, well, there'd be a mixture. I think it would be evenly balanced between heavily polluting and not polluting at all. A lot of Greens and green, you know, people who respect the planet. Australia, I think we'd be doing a reasonable job. Percentage-wise, we're doing okay. But when you have a look at, say, you know, Indonesia or China, for that matter, in the way that they treat the planet, if that was to continue to consume the planet, I believe that there'd be more than likely every millimeter of the planet would be inhabited, and they'd be farming the moon for resources as well. Like, it would just extend out. There wouldn't be no... I have to ask, there's probably still areas that are, you know, just... Are there hills with trees and things? And grassland? You're talking about like the center of the city, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think there was a planet in Star Wars that was just a city.
Yeah, no, it was the capital city.
Mm-hmm.
The capital planet, I should say.
Yeah.
Can't remember what it was called, but yeah, it was all city. Yeah, it was.
It wasn't Coruscant or something, was it?
No, it wasn't that. I can't remember, but that's where the Parliament convened, and or the Senate, I should say. And no, you're right. It was the entire planet was one huge city.
That's more than likely what, if I extrapolate out, if I said China was going to rule the world, it'd be everything. Well, maybe that's the way I picture it.
Mm-hmm.
Unless a brand like if you, what just came out last week, Mickey? I'm going to segue into this one as well, which was the Sirius documentary.
Which one?
Sirius?
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. Really?
Oh.
I haven't seen it. What?
I'll share all the information I have after the show with you.
Good. Dude, you remember I was in the middle of China, right? So.
With all of your internet. Hey, look, I don't want to laugh at the lack of internet. My neighbouring suburb has just turned on the NBN.
Oh.
One suburb away, not even maybe 2 miles away from me. And when do I get it? 2016. Awesome.
2016?
I get it.
I think I'm getting it next year. Yeah.
The NBN is the National Broadband Network, which is fibre to the house, yeah? For everyone out there. And we're looking forward to it. Going to change our little lives anyway.
It will.
So, yeah. So, it sounds like an exciting trip, Mech, to be...
Oh, look, the trip was excellent. And like I said, in Xi'an we had privileged access. I had no idea when we went just how privileged the access would be. I was blown away. There's red carpet treatment, and there's the whole next level to that, where you don't go through turnstiles, you don't line up for anything, you're just driven right to the center of where you want to be, and we were in special cars which had government plates and flashing lights to make sure everybody got out of our way.
Nice.
It was like these are big SUVs, not black. I expected black SUVs. I think one was black. No, I'm serious. And we were just driven around. I mean, it was quite an experience, to be honest with you, and to see just how power operates. This is real power that was in operation. To let us through to places and make way in the traffic, and it was. If that's what we're up against, the true elite obviously has this kind of power, then it's a little frightening because people will just comply with that kind of thing. And yeah, it was a great trip. It opened my eyes to a few things because I had no idea. I mean, everybody talks about China's growth, 8%, 9%, 10%, whatever it is. Seeing the building sites and seeing the highways and seeing the infrastructure and just seeing the sheer amount of people, you realize that China is truly a power that you can't compete with, or not many can compete with. China, in my view, is entirely self-sufficient for anything. Having said that, in the middle of Xi'an, you will find McDonald's. You can get a Coke too. So it's not like I'm not focusing on these particular brands, but just to give you an idea, any brand that you could possibly want, it would be there because there's money there. There's a lot of money there. Hundreds of millions of dollars are being made by individuals. It is quite astonishing. It's like almost like a gold rush over there right now. So yeah, Dave, I was lucky enough to have this trip and gather the experiences. But the more I travel around the world, and recently I went to Thailand as well, and then a little while ago I went to Europe. The more I realized that what Dave and I talk about is real. What Dave and I talk about and extrapolate and theorize about is real, is happening. You can see it in action all around us, and for the most part, people ignore it because it's too hard. Later on in the second half of the show, after the break, I'll talk to you guys about the Chinese pyramids and terracotta warriors and a few little tidbits of information which I got right from the source. The Chinese people and so forth there. It's very interesting, and it's just accepted. And we feel that we need to be more aware, right, Dave? We need to be more informed about all of these things.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to just get people thinking before we head into the break about, the pyramids in general around the planet. The show
Mm-hmm.
before us was talking about pyramids at
Mm-hmm.
length and had an author on there doing a great job.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to, everyone's just going to have to live with my kilometers and metric descriptions of the Great the Great Pizza at Giza. No, the Great Pyramid at Giza. The pyramid itself occupies 5.3 hectares. Sorry, 5.3 square kilometers.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, my bad. It's like 462 meters tall, and given that they were just above Stone Age,
Well, that's what yeah, that's what
no,
they.
wait. My segue will make it.
Okay.
So, according to historians, of course, who can only make arm-locked steps forward if they all agree, suggest that there was no one with any technology there. But to build something that had 2.3 million rocks bigger than you can carry,
Mm-hmm.
over 5.3 square kilometer base, to rise up perfectly to a central point which is only 6 millimeters off center. 6 millimeters. That's a quarter of an inch.
Yeah, guys, that's pretty impressive. In case you're not an engineer or architect.
Even today, that would be within specifications. If we were to build it today out of concrete, if we did a giant concrete pour and we did that, they'd say, you know what, that's actually pretty good. But remembering that it was clad in limestone with a gold tip, which probably centered it itself anyway, and it was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And for that to have been created by people without any technology, I think is beyond us to disagree. Sorry, beyond us to agree with beyond us to agree that they didn't have technology. That is just astounding. And of course, the height versus the width means that it's pi. That's not a coincidence either. And we know now that the pyramids are all over the planet.
Yep.
And one of the mysterious places on the planet is China. And I want you guys to all think about the possibility that we have ancient technologies and ancient civilizations on the planet with more technology than we give them credit for.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. I love, you know what? I don't think there's been a show where we haven't talked about ancient aliens and ancient technology.
I don't think there has.
To this day. And if I was playing charades right now, there'd be someone in front of me standing there doing that longer, make it longer. Tell me more about it.
Mm.
But I'm just stretching the time out until I hear that the mid-break music. So, Meki.
Yes, sir.
I'm glad you're alive and well. You know what? Everyone missed you while you were away.
Thanks.
And the people in the chat room, where's Meki the whole time? But I'm going to take this quick opportunity to suggest to everyone that this is listener-funded radio.
Yes.
Your contributions go towards the running of this station. You need to go to freedomslips.com, find the donate button, make a donation, $5, $10, anything you can. Remember, we don't get paid for this. All the money goes towards the running of the station.
Mm-hmm.
And we appreciate your patronage. Also, we can promote at this point in the show, we can promote our own website. Please go to shinysideout.net if you can. All of the information that we talk about in the shows are here. Links to the YouTube clips, as well as all the show notes. And I really would appreciate that if you go there too. And plus, Meki, do we have funky merchandise? Do we have?
We've got the funkiest merchandise. I actually have two coffee cups now, and I gave a T-shirt to my brother, which is brilliant.
Awesome.
So yes, go and buy it, guys. I mean, again, we're not going to make much money off it, but it's pretty cool, And if we see you in the street, we'll run the other way.
Actually, that's pretty funny. I've given my... Oh, hang on.
There's the music.
We'll see you on the other side of the break.
Beautiful.
Radio at freedomslips.com. We'll be right back after this message.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
There is no denying the world is awakening. We see it in the global uprisings and demonstrations of the people around the planet and the new way of thinking and living that is arising naturally within each one of us and our communities. I have been a major player in this global shift and movement for over 20 years and have helped tens of thousands of people around the world change their lives and find their voice in order to help create the paradigm change we so desperately need. Join me here at Revolution Radio on the Just Bernard Show every Tuesday at noon Eastern Time for 2 hours of powerful interviews and discussion with some of the most influential visionaries of consciousness, alternative media, and suppressed knowledge. We promise to reveal the real matrix and empower your human experience.
You realize you're caught in a dream. The adventure begins. Put your seatbacks and tray tables in the upright position as we take a trip in the very fabric of reality. Join me, Andrew Bartas, for Adventures into Reality, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 noon at Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps.
I can hear him banging. He's trying to get in. He's getting close to the door. I'm going to go ahead and get the gun out. It's a shotgun. It's large.
Every time our country stands in the path of danger, an instinct seems to summon her finest first. Those who truly understand her. When freedom shivers in the cold shadow of true peril, it's always the patriots who first hear the call.
Be here Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. till 10 a.m. Eastern Time with Clayton Douglas, the Free American, right here on Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. Don't miss each and every show. It should be a fantastic adventure into ideas of freedom and liberty. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps. Thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. If you plan to call in and speak with one of our hosts, please turn down your radio and separate yourself from any background noise and wait for the area code to be called on before you speak. And don't forget, Revolution Radio freedomslips.com is listener supported. So stop by the homepage, freedomslips.com, visit the site support area to help support the host you're listening to's airtime. Thank you. Revolution Radio freedomslips.com, where the truth never sleeps. Revolution Radio. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
You're back with Shiny Side Out on freedomslips.com. We are part of Revolution Radio, and we are halfway through show number 59. And we're talking about all kinds of things, but mainly China, and earthquakes, and pyramids coming up. And now, guys, this is a listener-funded radio show, well, in fact, radio station. So if you like what you hear, please go to freedomslips.com and push the donate button. Your donation is greatly appreciated and helps run the station and does not go to Dave or I. We get no cash for this. We just like talking a lot. And yeah, so if you've got the spare cash, please do donate. Thank you very much. Dave.
Uh-huh.
How are you doing?
A little change from before the break, to be honest.
Oh, what happened?
I said little change.
Ah, little change. I thought there was a little change.
No, not a little change. No, I'm good. I've just been in the chat room for all of those who are listening to this show on YouTube in the future, listening to the past show. Whoa, it always gets me confused. Grandfather, father, son. Yes, okay. So they're in the future listening to the past show.
That's
if
right.
you are, you need to join us on our time, Sundays, in Australian time, 4 p.m. or 6 p.m. In the US, that of course it is winter time. In the US, it's if you're on the eastern coast, it is 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. Or if you're in California, Pacific time, it's 11 p.m. Saturday night to 1 a.m. Sunday morning.
And there's someone in the chat room. I just want to quickly say this before we go on. And I want to.
This is the interactive kind of show we've got, man.
Yeah, that's right. And look, it's an alias, Schmoopy 1198 underscore 1198, I should say. And so we don't know who you are, and that's cool. But you know, there's been talk that Schmoopy wants to be visited by the visitors and wants to be abducted and wants to do this and that and the other. And that's all, you know, fun to talk about. It's a fairly serious topic. And I know people make fun of it, and I get it, and it's not believable to most people. I understand that too. It's hard to believe these things, and you know, I have doubts. Everybody has doubts, surely.
I'm with you, Mackie.
But nonetheless, there's mounting evidence that something is happening. There's some phenomenon that is going on. Okay, I don't know if it's the government, if it is visitors, if it's time travelers, I don't know, whatever. But there's something that's happening, and it's quite stressful for people that are exposed to it. Okay, it is not something that you wish for. It's like wishing for cancer. You really don't want this in your life. We can ask Dave at length if you want about this, but it is not an easy thing to live through. Okay, if you think it's just cool and, you know, aliens come and, you know, we're all going space shipping and whatever you think it happens, it's not quite like that, I don't think.
Oh, no.
Okay.
And I've also invited Schmoopy underscore 1198 to private message me in the chat room for an offline conversation. I'm happy to, but, you know, I think I think one part of that is that they've Schmoopy has wanted to see UFOs.
I get that.
Seriously, you know?
Yeah.
That's great. Me too. I want to see them land on the lawn of the White House. I want to see them on the TV. I want to see them flying in the air. In fact, I wish I could fly one. Not only just, you know, for them to be extraterrestrials. Maybe they're already terrestrials. We don't know. Maybe they're US government driven. We don't know. But, you know, part of that would be, you know, does that fix the world's politics? Does it fix the world's problems for us to come in contact with visitors from other planets? You know, it might. But has it gone reasonably well for all of the other peoples of the world when the more technically advanced people have arrived? Has it gone at all well, Mekhi, in the past?
Well, Dave, the answer would be negatory. No, every time I'm talking about technologically advanced, not ethically or morally or even philosophically, but technologically. Any time a civilization that was more advanced than another, that one, the more advanced one, usually wiped out the less advanced one. And in the point in case, when I say wiped out, they don't have to kill everybody to the last man and woman. It's enough to lock them up in reservations, in special settlements, and sometimes, they were all killed. You look at North America, if you will, right? South America, the native inhabitants certainly are not in charge anymore. Australia, same story. The only reason I think Asia escaped that particular fate is because the civilizations there were quite advanced, in some instances more advanced, and places like Thailand have never been colonized by the West. So, no, Dave, it hasn't gone well for those that weren't as advanced as the it's my German coming through, as advanced as the conquerors or explorers as were.
Great. Yeah. So Schmoopy _1198. Really be careful what you wish for.
Mm-hmm.
It may be not what you want.
Yeah. That is essentially. That is essentially the message there, and we all, I'm reminded of certain things. Like when I was younger, I thought it'd be cool, if the world ended and this and that happened. But then you grow up and you understand how people work, you understand relationships, this and that, and you don't want that anymore. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of people get hurt. And this is a similar thing, of course it's, in your mind it's cool because, it's a new thing and an adventure. Yeah, up to a point. Until you can't move. And I've had these experiences twice in my life, or maybe 3 times now, where I suffered from sleep paralysis. They call it sleep paralysis. I know I was awake. I know I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't imagining it. And there was twice I saw an entity, once very clearly a black shadowy thing, and I couldn't move. And it took all my willpower to start moving again. And that's when the entity disappeared. So it is not fun. It is terrifying, okay? It's not a good thing to have happened to you. And Dave has experienced much more than that. And I think he will also tell you that it's not fun.
Yeah, the not fun. And because I've seen the black, jagged, edged, shadowy figures, completely fully conscious, standing up in a room, and they raced towards me around all the furniture. And that's a frightening thing because you realize that they're not human. You realize they're doing something beyond your control. And when you're in a paralysis state, when they've got you and they've done that, they're able to do anything they want, and you cannot stop them. In fact, you are like the rat in the lab. They're growing an ear in your back. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. When they're finished with the ear, they don't care anymore.
Yeah.
They never cared to begin with. There's no interaction, which humans crave. What's the best word to put it? I can't think of the word right now. But our interaction, the way we communicate with each other, is a peer-to-peer relationship.
We need feedback, essentially.
That's number one on the list of how to communicate with something is feedback. You need to get to say something, they say something back to you. But that does not happen.
Mm-hmm. You can't establish a rapport, right?
There's no rapport. There's no empathy. There's nothing whatsoever. You're dealing with someone who has clearly more power than you on the physical world, technologically as well. Good luck with that.
But looking at the chat, I don't think that Schmoopy is in any way convinced by what we say. You know what, Schmoopy? I hope they visit you. I really do.
if I could, say you join a website and it says if you invite 10 others, you'll get a discount. I'm hoping, Schmoopy _1198, that I can provide a list and say, you know what, this guy's been pretty good. This guy or girl has been really good. Why don't you go visit them? They say they're RH negative too. Woohoo! Yeah, if they're not already on the list, maybe I haven't gotten around to you yet. But good luck with that. Because remember, they don't knock on they don't send you an email and say we're going to come around on Sunday night. They don't phone you in advance saying, "Are you sure you're still home?" Because just in case, and it doesn't matter where you are, and they don't politely land in the front yard and then walk up the stairs and knock on the door. They don't do that. You don't let them in and say, "Would you like a cup of tea or a coffee?" They don't do that. Nothing like that happens, right? At all.
Yeah,
So,
but hey,
yeah.
if you need that in your experiential horizon, I wish you all the best with that, and good luck with that. I mean, maybe the universe will answer your quest.
It's been known to do that.
Yeah, if you ask for something badly enough, and I've seen people in a totally different context. I've seen people wanting something really, really badly, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what it is, and it has never turned out well. When they got it, it never turned out well. This might be a universal thing, I don't know, but they really wanted it. They pushed for it. They didn't let it happen in the natural course of events. It was a forced issue, right? So I want it now, give it to me now, and they got it. And I think they would have gotten it anyway, but I think they got it before they were ready or before the time was ready. And maybe they shouldn't have gotten it in the first place. But there are many, many different examples of that. Now, that's enough time. We've tried to talk to Schmoopy. Which is cool. Let's go back on track with the pyramids. And
Snoopy's Australian.
Is he? She?
Or whoever it is. Because that word they just typed in there, that's an Australian word.
Really? What's the word? Balderdash?
Yeah.
Balderdash was actually a game. Do you know that? Yeah, Balderdash was it's misspelled. It's actually B-A-U. That's okay though. Balderdash. Yeah, it was a game. And it played the popcorn sound.
Oh, yeah. I know that.
And you were a penguin.
It's a bluffing trivia game.
That's exactly right. Okay. Now, to get back to the pyramids, guys, just some quick stats, if you allow me that. The pyramids are all over the world. Okay, you can find them everywhere. There's not one continent that doesn't have some form of pyramid. And scientists say, well, that's because it is the simplest way to build a large structure that can reach a certain height. No, agreed. That is true. I have no argument with that. Interestingly enough, though, they're usually aligned as well in a certain way, right? And a lot of these pyramids show a lot of similarities, right, in their building structures. And the thing is this. There are very many different ways you can build pyramids. There are a lot of different ways to do it, and they've all been explored. But and this is key here, they are all attributed, they are mostly attributed to some kind of god or gods. And that goes for the Chinese pyramids as well, because the first emperor, Wu Shan, I think his name was also a living god. Okay, and he communed with those that had sky chariots and so forth. And he was also the guy, if you cast your mind back, that was looking for immortality. In fact, so badly that he died of mercury poisoning because he ingested large quantities of that, thinking he would gain immortality that way. So pyramids all over the world, more or less disguised. And the thing is this, we don't know why these pyramids were built for the most part. I mean, people say they're mausoleums, they're burial chambers. Sure, yeah. There's not one body in the Great Pyramid. Okay, other pyramids, even the South American ones, there weren't any bodies in there. They were, laid out to the constellations. They were aligned to the cardinal points, specifically the pyramid in Giza, perfectly aligned. Okay, and quite beautifully engineered. The pyramid in China that I recently went to hasn't been excavated at all. But again, they say it's a mausoleum for the emperor. He's buried there because all the terracotta soldiers are around it, guarding it. Well, how do you know he's buried there? Because you haven't dug into it yet, right? Or so, at least so you say. In fact, the tour guide told me that the pyramid in China has got a mercury level, the Earth has got a mercury level 7 times higher than the surrounding countryside. 7 times higher. And this is after 2,000 years, because the pyramid was built in 200 BC. Okay? So it goes quite a while back, maybe longer, but the records indicate it was 200 BC when it was built. And she said, that the pyramid is an intricate replication or replica of the cosmos and the Earth. And I said, well, how do you know this if you haven't dug into it? How do you know it's so complex and a replica of the cosmos?
Wait, pause.
Yep.
So they haven't excavated?
No. Have not. Oh, sorry, let me rephrase that. They say they have not. And you certainly cannot take a shovel to it.
So they're not letting anyone touch them at all?
Not to dig, no. Not officially, no. They're afraid to disturb it. They say the first concern they have is conservation, which is cool. I get that, right? You don't want to destroy, a monument like that. I understand that, but up to this point, no digging has been conducted around it. And interestingly enough, if you look at the 1940s pictures that were taken during World War II by Americans, you see a pyramid, and I'll see if I can paste that in for you guys. You can see a pyramid that is not covered by anything. Okay, it's really just a structure. Okay, let me see if I can copy the link location and then post it in for you guys. And it's literally uncovered by trees or anything else, right? If you look at a more recent picture of the pyramid, it is covered in trees. So almost as though someone had deliberately tried to, hide it from view. Maybe? Yeah.
Isn't that entirely what they've done, though?
Well, I think that's exactly what they've done. That's my opinion, right? But, who am I to say that? But initially, and this is the 1940s picture, I'm just about to post it into the chat, and we will have it as part of the show notes, guys. So, if you're not part of the chat, that's cool. Here we go. And, yeah, it's not... So from the air now, it's harder to see. It's sorry about the link size, but it's a link within a link. So it is now hidden from view more or less from an aerial view, I should say, right? So, but it was discovered nonetheless in the 1980s, and German archaeologists first, in modern times, investigated the pyramid, and since then, of course, because it's part of the terracotta soldier complex, it has been incorporated into that larger archaeological area. And it's interesting as well that. It was discovered entirely by coincidence by a farmer that was digging, for crops, or actually for a well. I'm sorry, he was digging for a well, and he brought up a terracotta soldier's head, and this is for the people that lived in the area, right? So they had no idea that thousands of terracotta soldiers are beneath their feet, and that was in the 80s. It was quite a find, and as I said, recently has become more known even in the West, but. Not fully accepted yet, I guess. And there are 38 pyramids, in fact, in China. So,
wow.
Yeah. Now, not all of the same size, but certainly 38 pyramidal structures. Within that complex, I think there are 5 or 6, smaller than the largest one, but altogether there are 5 or 6. So, so you ask yourself, well, there are these pyramids. They're everywhere. Why? Why are they there? Why did everybody build pyramids? I don't know if you heard about the pyramid in Bosnia. There are pyramids in America, North America as well, and certainly in South America, about, right? And you ask yourself, well, it's a common theme across the world. So you've got 2 common themes in architecture. You've got the megalithic structures, where things are built with massive rocks, worked rocks, thanks, Dave. That's the one. Yep. So with massive rocks and with massive stones, and they're cut beautifully and to measure. And you've got the pyramids. So you've got two things that are coincidental. Do you know what I mean? So the question is, who left them there? And don't forget, these are pyramids, and for the most part, we don't know who built them or why they were built. In some cases we do. In some cases there are stories as to who built them, and we can believe them and we cannot believe them. That's entirely up to us. But it's a common theme. So you've got the megalithic blocks, and you've got the pyramids. So, and this is across the globe. So to me, that would mean there may have been a culture that spanned the globe. Because think about today's architecture. If you go back to ancient Greece and ancient Rome, they built in a certain fashion. They built these big buildings with columns from marble, usually white, and it was a very specific architectural style. The Temple of Athena or the Temple of Zeus or even the Colosseum, the Forum and all these places in Greece and in Italy and around the Mediterranean. You will see that architecture replicated by cultures that came later, the Germans, for instance, right? The British, the French. They built in the style of the Romans and the Greeks, for the most part. And the Romans and the Greeks, to some extent, built in the style of the Babylonians and so forth. But having said that, with the pyramids as well, there may have been an original pyramid building civilization, and then civilizations that came after, whoever they might have been, may very well have built pyramids as well because their forebears did. You see where I'm going with this? So there must have been a globe-spanning culture at one point, or a very far-reaching culture, a culture that had a lot of influence, I guess, historically, politically, philosophically, I guess, as well, that would have influenced anyone that came after, which was, of course, thousands of years ago. And now we don't really know who that was. So that's the interesting thing about these pyramids. And as I said, the lady that was guiding us said the biggest mystery about the pyramid in Xi'an is the high mercury content. Because even today, mercury is a fairly elusive substance. If you break your thermometer, the stuff inside is quicksilver or mercury, and it evaporates rather quickly. So they don't know how the ancient Chinese 2,000 years ago were able to gather that much mercury in one place and then use it, meaningfully, I guess, because otherwise, why would it be there? So there's a lot of mysteries around this. And again, as I said, well, how do you know it's such an integrated replica of the cosmos? Because you haven't dug there. And there was silence when I asked that question because, of course, you can't answer it. And the chances are they have dug into it. Similarly to Zaha was denying there's a room under the Sphinx. We all know there's a room under the Sphinx, and we all know that the powers that be had a look into it. Okay, the echo sounding definitely showed us there's a room. That was back in the 90s, and they have gone back and had a look, but they haven't told us. Fair enough. And I'm sure there are more secret passages under the pyramids because the pyramids actually extend into the bedrock. Yeah, they built the pyramids in Egypt on bedrock and extended the tunnels and chambers underneath. And I don't think all the chambers and tunnels have been explored at this point, keeping us in the dark. And similarly with the South American pyramids and pyramids in Europe that you see. And interestingly enough, Ivan T. Sanderson, who was, I guess, a friend of Charles Berlitz's, in his diving expeditions around Bimini or, generally Bermuda, found an underwater pyramid, I understand, and a ship also echo sounded it. And it was off the coast of Florida, in case you guys want to follow that up. So pyramids seem to be everywhere. All right, that's really the key here. And a lot of people didn't believe me when I said, there's pyramids in China. Yeah, sure there are. No one ever talks about them. Yeah, because they're not called pyramids. They're called mausoleums, or natural rocks or mountains or temples. But in essence, they're pyramids. And they're closer in their structure to the South American pyramids than to the Egyptian pyramids, as they have a flat top to them. So that's my little rant on the pyramids.
Well, I was going to say as well that I'm looking at one of these arrangements of pyramids. Now, we know in South America they have the Pyramid of the Sun, and then the relative size and proportional distance from each other, all the planets laid out in a single, along a road.
Mm.
In Egypt, it's the Orion's Belt arrangement of the three major pyramids.
Mm.
And it's also found in one of the pyramids, arranged one of the patterns that the pyramids make from above in China.
Mm.
There's also the same or very similar style of arrangement of the same. And you're right, Mickey. I'm just going to make these points stronger, is that whilst they were called tombs, that there aren't in fact any people found in them. They call it a king's chamber and a queen's chamber, but that's just archaeologists trying to continue their own grants, having not found any trace of there being anything in there. And in fact, it's now thought that there might be some kind of power source. You can only imagine that if that were the case, who knows? They might be the only things that survived the previous civilizations on Earth.
And it makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, because they're so large, even glaciated, they wouldn't budge.
Yep. Now think about, Dave, you make a very good point. Guys, think about it this way. What would survive today? If we had a nuclear war, if a meteorite hit the Earth, if there was massive tsunamis, earthquakes, whatever the catastrophe is, what would survive the test of time. Even if there was no catastrophe, like a disease wiped us out, after 5,000 years, what would be left? Most of our cities would be gone, reclaimed by nature, by the jungle, destroyed by wind and rain and the elements. The glass would break, the metal would rust, the concrete would crumble. The only thing left would be massive stone structures, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, worse for wear, yes, 100%, but the only thing left would be these monoliths. In fact, the pyramids have a better chance of surviving a cataclysm than New York. Okay, it's that simple. I mean, it's an astonishing city, New York. Most of our big cities are amazing feats of construction, glass and steel towers, concrete. Going hundreds of meters into the sky. I mean, we've really come a long way from troglodytes. But would it survive? Well, no, it would not. The Washington Monument, yeah, that would survive. Places like that were, I guess, built to last and out of rock. And single stones that have a certain density. Sandstone will be again quickly washed away, so Sydney won't survive, even though there are a lot of sandstone buildings. But, that won't hold against the elements. So you need go on, yep.
When you have 2 miles of ice, just shearing everything off at ground level, there really isn't anything left. The whole of Sydney, the Harbour Bridge, and everything would just be pushed off into the ocean. It's unlikely anything would survive that. Where I live, if I had a subterranean, while I'm in my bunker, clearly my bunker would survive because there was a glacier where I am, and the soil type where I am is not rubble pile. It's ground away, but because of the curvature, my place won't be ground away. My house would be, but everything else would be okay. So, New York, for instance, is a rubble pile. The hill in New York is a rubble pile from the last glaciation. So, when you were talking, Meki, I was thinking about this. That we've all seen the tsunami in Fukushima.
Yep.
Sure we would, Mick. Why not? Why not? It's entertainment. So the when the tsunami washed in, what was left? I mean, it was debris.
Yep.
But there were no structures left. If any, 1 or 2 brick buildings, solidly built concrete buildings, and that's pretty much it. So I'd hesitate to suggest that there would be anything survivable from our civilization. Of course, we've now turned electronic, so the written record would appear as though it sort of petered out around the 80s. And there'd be really not much written record kept. Anything that's left on stone as carvings, good luck. Like I said before, if it's a cataclysm, get your chisel and a hammer and start typing. On the nearest rock. It's all that's going to be left. You know what I mean?
That's right.
When you see an F5 tornado suck all the houses, even empty pools, and just leave concrete slabs on the ground, that's pretty much what there'd be. And after not even 100 years, those slabs are covered over by grass.
That's correct.
And a foot of soil.
That's correct.
So, we're looking at the South American basin right now with all its trees, and we've captured it before it's ruined completely because of the trees' roots pulling all the buildings apart.
Yep. So, you're 100% correct. I mean, if you're lucky enough to go to South America or Southeast Asia, and you go to these ancient temple structures, which are, ancient, even only a few hundred years old, right? You will see massive trees growing right amongst them. Do you know what I mean? They will split apart these ancient monuments. It doesn't matter, how big they are, because the plants will get into that. It's I guess it's luck to some extent that the pyramids as well as the Sphinx were covered over by sand for the longest time. Because make no mistake,
allows no growth.
Exactly, and it actually preserves it. It's similar with Göbekli Tepe.
Tepe.
Which was deliberately buried. So if you bury something deliberately, and same with the terracotta soldiers, right? If you bury something deliberately, then you actually protect it, and so the Sphinx, the Great Pyramid, Göbekli Tepe, places like that have been protected by the sand. They were buried in the earth, over time. Interestingly enough, the terracotta soldiers were buried, but over the 2,000 intervening years, of course, several feet of topsoil have built up on top of them. That's why they were only found when someone dug a well. It's not like they were near the surface. When I looked at the excavations, they were a good, I guess in feet, it'll be good 10, 12 feet underground, right? Today's ground, not the ground back then. So it is. I think it is a fair thing to say that there would be very little left of our civilization, and in fact, people in 2, 5, 10,000 years time would be hearing, myths about people that used to fly around the sky in gigantic metal birds, and they would be able to talk to each other across the ocean. And, they would talk to a door and it would open. So if that sounds familiar, that's because, that's the stories we hear about the past today.
The Vimanas.
That's right.
The Vimanas, sorry.
That's right. Open sesame, right? Flying carpets, all kinds of wonderful things. Of course, they're all just flights of fancy, except we did find aerodynamically correct planes in the Egyptian tombs, if you will. This is actually in the tomb, not the pyramid. Because guess what? The kings were buried in the Valley of Kings. That's where they were buried, not in the pyramid. There's a huge valley in Egypt, and that's where all the pharaohs were buried. That's where Tutankhamun was found. Not in the pyramid, right? I don't care what you saw in the movies. It's not true. All right. So this is a fact. These are all facts. So where does it leave us? It leaves us wondering about these things. Seeing them, firsthand, does change you. Unfortunately, and this is to you, Brian, in the chat room. Most of these pyramids are no longer accessible by the public. Okay, you can no longer actually go onto the pyramid in Giza. You can't climb it like they used to because too many people broke off rocks and took them away for souvenirs. If you let millions of people crawl around it, I guess after 10, 20 years there'll be nothing left of it. So I can understand why they've done this. And other pyramids similarly, right? Again, you can't go to most of the pyramids in China. Certainly not the one in the terracotta soldier complex. I couldn't go there. You can't go there.
Really?
Nope.
I thought you could view it from a platform.
Oh no, you can view it. You can't go on it.
Ah.
See, it's all about getting onto that thing, climbing it. And Brian, I agree with you. It'd be awesome to be able to climb the pyramids in Egypt. It'd be brilliant. It'll be quite high up. It'd be quite scary, but I think it'd be an experience. I'm not sure about the South American pyramids. I do believe that you can still.
You can.
You can, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, then there are pyramids all over the place which aren't recognized as pyramids, and that's fine as well. I guess you can visit those.
But they are not built to the current building codes, which doesn't allow a continuous 20 steps in a row without a platform. You will be 365 steps up in the air, because they use it as a date calendar.
Mm-hmm.
So any falling down on those steps would certainly result in a fatality.
Yeah, you.
So do be careful.
That's a very good point that you made there. Yes, because once you start falling, there's very little to stop you.
If nothing, it may be a broken limb.
That's right.
Or two.
Now, I asked Dave in our private chat whether or not we should let Schmoopy call in, and we agreed that we should. So, Schmoopy, if you have something interesting to say, please call the number. We're waiting for your call. We will pick up. Okay, and the number is, again, I'll tell you what the number is. It's in the States. It is 347-688-2902. 347-688-2902. Now, that's in the States. I don't know where you are. You probably, if you're not in the States, you would have to use international dialing code first. And we're holding our breath. In the meantime, though, we're going to keep on talking until you do call. And I do want to talk a little about the crisis that is shaping up between the superpowers, or, well, the so-called crisis. I do believe that America is facing a very tough century indeed. I do believe that America is the exact opposite of China these days. In America, you've got neighborhoods shutting down. You've got factories that are closing. You've got people that are becoming increasingly homeless, millions in fact. I think 1 million homes were foreclosed, Dave, during the crisis. Is that correct? About 1 million homes?
Yeah, that's right.
Now, that's a lot of homes and entire neighborhoods that are now being cannibalized. I'm talking about the infrastructure of the houses, copper pipes, glass, whatever can be salvaged. But this entire suburbs that have gone empty now. So it is the exact opposite situation in China, where it's just booming. The infrastructure growth, the building that is going on is astonishing. It's mind-boggling. How much steel is being shipped into China and how many resources, apart from steel, are helping in the construction. How many companies are making money? So, with America, we're seeing a declining economy. We're seeing the polarization of wealth to the top. We're seeing that Wall Street is taking ever more money from the common man, from Main Street. Right? The latest crisis was a massive money grab. People say money is lost on the stock market. That is actually not true. Money is never lost. It is lost by people and gained by other people. For the most part, the small investors lose. In any stock market crisis, in any crash, it is the smaller investors. Of course, not always, but for the most part. And that money is redistributed. Okay. Now, bear in mind that this is fantasy money to start with. It's not real money because it was created by our banking system. Our banking system can lend $10 for every dollar they hold. I don't even know if that's true anymore, right? So if a bank has got $1 million, it can lend out 100 million. So all of a sudden you've got $99 million that came out of nowhere. You just created it. Boom, there it is. Where did it come from? I don't know.
Or you have Cyprus, which has less than a tenth of its actual value, and it's holding on to it. Did you hear that, Meg?
Yeah, I did actually.
Oh my goodness! If you have more than $150, they've taken the rest of it.
Yeah, isn't that astonishing? I mean, they're imposing this tax on the people that really don't have that much in the first place. So what do you do? As a small person, unless you can forestall the devaluation of your currency, I would say put it all under your bed. Okay, don't give it to the banks. But this is our system, and our system has become so entrenched. It's very difficult to navigate around it. It's very difficult to get rid of it, in fact. But that's something we have to do because the system, as it stands today, no longer works. It no longer works. It is just there to sustain itself, and we will see more people becoming poor and the few becoming so rich it'll be obscene. Okay, they'll make billions and billions and billions, and they build ever bigger yachts and have ever bigger palaces. Well, most of us will live in the street, and it's just the way it is. It's just what's going to happen because the system is a fantasy system. It's built on a lie. It is a castle that is built in the clouds. It has no foundation in reality. There no longer is anything that can back up the currency, even if you accept gold as something valuable, which it isn't really. Not really. It
actually deflated this week.
Oh, did it?
Mm-hmm.
There's actually nothing backing up the currency anymore. There's no gold standard like there used to be. There isn't. Okay, it is now entirely traded. Everything is free fall. The only currency that is more or less controlled is the Chinese currency, the RMB, and that's deliberately done by the Chinese government and smartly so. And of course, everybody else is very upset about this because they can't trade the Chinese currency freely like they do other currencies. So if they could, then there would be, of course, a massive speculation on the Chinese currency and probably bring inflation as well. And that's something the Chinese want to avoid, smartly so. And it's really important that we think of other alternatives to our current economic system because the crash will come. And when the crash comes, it'll be global because all the currencies are linked. Because all the currencies are interconnected and because a lot of wealth needs to be moved around into very, very few pockets from you. Okay, your savings, your superannuations, your pension funds, whatever it is, they will evaporate. Okay, I can tell you that. And I think Dave and I, we spoke about this before. In fact, people have told us it should have happened already. And the global financial crisis was certainly a step in the right direction for those guys, because again, the money is not lost; it is just redistributed.
Yeah, there isn't any really money. There's no money really. It's only confidence, which is you see every week saying, how good things are getting, and if you're not seeing how good they're getting, how can you agree with it, and how can it affect your confidence? This week we saw a huge sell-off of gold, and it dropped $300 an ounce from 1,600 down to 1,300. Like, that's a lot.
That is a lot.
It's never dropped that significantly in 1 day or 2 day period.
That is correct.
And that's usually because the really big players just sold a bunch of it to go and buy something else. That's really all it is. But I'm seeing, remember, I've got this trending obsession with trending, and I'm able to, with only 3 pieces of information, be able to trend something usually pretty accurately. And this is what I've seen. It's a global destruction of the dollar value to equalize. This is my call. I'm calling this. Today is the 28th of April, 2013. I'm calling this. This is Darren Hinch style. Right now, right here, right now, I'm calling this.
Shame, shame, shame.
Shame, shame, shame. I'm sorry, Darren. I'm calling this today because I believe that they're equalizing the planet. They're equalizing everyone's wealth for the one world currency, one world government, whatever it is. Who cares? They're vacuuming up all of our pockets of all the money they can possibly have. You're not allowed to have any of it, because when they do the call, it'll be much easier. It'll be an easier step across to a single currency if no one has any. If we're all battling, everyone's on an Freudian slip, even keel when it comes to the cutover. Does that make sense?
Yes, so, it does. Because you have to do that. You have to create an underclass. Well, underclass. There'll be 2 classes. There'll be upper class and there'll be the rest of us, which has no means any longer. Means of education, means of resistance, means of, critical thought, means of self-sustenance. So you take all of this away, and look, the inroads are being made. Money is just one aspect, right? We've spoken about water. We've spoken about GMOs, right? And GM foods, in fact, in general. We've spoken about the privatization of all utilities, not just the water. We've spoken about the vanishing right to bear arms. In the States, you still have that right. Most other countries in the world have done away with that. In fact, the very first thing that Hitler and Stalin did was to get rid of all the privately held guns. And, shut down the places of free thought and critical thinking. Napoleon shut down all the coffee houses when he came into power, because that's where his, enemies would congregate.
Wow.
Yeah.
So are we not seeing the same things?
I think we are.
The gun laws have been tightened up.
Absolutely. And we're seeing. I can tell you this. What did it for Australia was Port Arthur. Port Arthur was a horrible event. Many people know about Port Arthur. Few people understand the significance and the impossibility of Port Arthur. Again, I spoke about this before. I was lucky enough to look at a military report. By a report that was produced by an ex-military gentleman for his shooting club. In that report, it was very clear that in the world, in his opinion, existed maybe 3 or 4 guys that could shoot like the guy that was shooting in Port Arthur. 3 or 4 guys.
So let me just gauge this. We're talking about the caliber of person, no pun intended, who can, shot for shot, in this time frame, be able to get this quantity of hits.
Yes. So it's important to understand the kill rate here as well, right? In any random shooting, the ratio of injuries to kills is usually very high. So you've got a lot of injured people and a few killed people. That's normal, right? In any professional shooting, if you will, that's exactly reversed. You've got a high kill ratio. Not only that, but he was shooting in very confined spaces within grapple range, And while most people would be paralyzed, sure enough, 1 or 2 out of the scores that he killed would have tried to get the gun from him, right? But that didn't seem to have happened because this person could control his space. It's all about controlling your space when you're trained that way. It's similar to martial arts. You need to control your space. And when you're shooting, these were all headshots, single kill shots, maybe twice. And then the odd thing, when they had the shootout with Martin Bryan in his shack, in his house, wherever, he fired scores of rounds, dozens of rounds, I don't know, maybe even hundreds of rounds at the police and did not shoot a single person. Okay, so he resisted, and I don't know why. Maybe he was brainwashed. Who knows what happened? Apparently he's mentally handicapped. I don't know if that is true or not, but I don't think that a mentally handicapped person that was an occasional shooter, not a professional shooter, he could shoot, don't get me wrong, he could shoot. I don't know if you've shot yourself. Shooting a moving target is very, very difficult, and shooting to kill is even harder. Okay, so it's that's be it an animal or a human being. Obviously it's harder with a human being. So this particular event brought about the gun control in Australia. Buyback and amnesties and all kinds of things. But it took that event. In the States, you've seen some horrendous shootings. Columbine, and then the recent one where the children were killed. Awful. That is horrible stuff. And still the gun control hasn't come in. So in my mind, that is it's actually a good thing for the Americans to retain the right to bear arms, right? Because the truth is this: if someone wants to kill someone, they will do it, okay? And every person in America that owns a gun doesn't go around committing these crimes, okay? If somebody is mentally deranged or somehow deficient or is a criminal, they will find means to do what they want to do. They will find the means. Make no mistake. Okay? And taking away your right to bear arms will leave you defenseless. The reason it is in the Constitution, the single reason it's there, is so you can defend yourself against tyranny. Okay? It's the same reason that you're allowed to have militias in the States, to defend yourself against tyranny. Okay? This was something that was foremost on the minds of your founding fathers. Yeah, it was to be able to resist an unjust or tyrannical government. That was really the purpose of this, right? And the American populace was never meant to be lulled into this kind of stupor, right? I mean, a lot of Americans don't vote anymore. And I'm taking America as an example because America was meant to be different. America has gone down a terrible path of self-destruction, guided by the elite. And the ideal that it was at one stage is no longer there, I don't think. It can be recaptured, I think, as well. But right now, I think you guys have a hard time just holding on to what you have. That is my opinion, personal opinion. Don't hate me for it, but I see it sliding down into an abyss, and it started sliding really fast after 9/11. That's when everything changed. And that night when I watched it in Australia, I knew it would change. Right? So we've gone quite far off track, but the point nonetheless remains that we need to stay vigilant. We need to understand the things that are happening. We need to understand that the control mechanisms are being put into place. And again, gun ownership is just one of those things that you can use to resist on a physical level, right? It's being taken away. The water is being taken away. The food is being taken away. Or everything that makes you an autonomous, an independent human being is being taken away from you. And that's not just for the American listeners. That's everybody out there. If you're from South America, you know this. They've already tried to privatize your utilities, right, with massive price increases because it's a profit motive as well. Nobody's really interested in making your life better. Not really, right? Hugo Chavez, much hated by the West because he privatized. Sorry, he took the private ownership of the oil away. He gave it to the people. Fantastic. Cuba, great health system as well. They were working together, right? I mean, it seemed to work for the people. If you can work for the people, right, then it's all good. But we don't have anyone anymore that works for the greater good. We really don't. And I guess Schmoopy, he's not calling in. I really did want to talk to you. We only have 5 minutes, right, Dave?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right.
Okay, look, hope you're not falling asleep too badly, Schmoopy. Dave and I do try to bring our listeners information and controversial information at that. Next week, Dave and I, we promised you, some weeks ago, we promised you a comparative mythology. I will put something together, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
But I need your input on this, of course. So I'll send it through during the week. So next week, hopefully, we can talk about comparative mythology, which will sort of hook into our belief that once there was a global civilization thousands of years ago, which has left physical and non-physical imprints on us.
Oh, that sounds awesome. The week after that, we'll hopefully have an interview with Kathleen Marden.
Oh, awesome!
The director of MUFON, or one of the directors of MUFON. So we're looking forward to interviewing her in the meantime. Sadly, she will have to do an offline interview with us, so you won't be able to ask her any questions during the interview process, but it should result in a marvelous interview.
Yes, that sounds fantastic.
All you
Great
UFO fans out there like me. And Meki and I will be going to the Nexus conference.
Yes.
And we will be shooting video, and we will be occupying Studio B for some live shots and live interviews.
So you can see what we look like. Uh-oh. Those are faces for radio. Radio faces.
Yeah, one of my friends was a radio host for 40 years. And it was said that he had a face for radio. I think we're okay. I think we could do all right. Have you seen the other hosts on this station? Oh, I'm only kidding everyone else.
I have no hair.
So, do you know what, Meki? This has been a good show today.
Yeah, it has. Thanks for having me back. Thanks for having me back. Thank you.
Oh, it was only a holiday for you.
Yeah, but I did want to dial in while I was there to test, because it would have been cool to bring you a global show. I'm sitting somewhere in Southeast Asia, and Dave is somewhere in Sydney, Australia, and we bring you this show. Because that's really, because Dave and I are not close together physically. We are probably, 100 clicks away from each other.
Yeah, pretty much.
So it would have been cooler to have it over 1,000 kilometers or 2,000 kilometers away, even further, where, it's like technology is working wonders. It's Skype, what Nighthawk has built here with freedomslips.com. It's a miracle of technology. Just think about it. Back in the olden days, Dave and I would have to get a cabin in the woods and get a CB radio station, maybe some kind of transmission tower running while we write our manifesto.
And now for a walk in the Black Forest. Sorry, that's the Goodies TV show from the 70s. I did a pirate radio station run from a submarine off the coast in international waters.
Goody, yum, yum.
That's it. Oh, for all of those old enough to remember it. Actually, that fits our demo. So I remind everyone once again, please catch up. If you're a first-time listener to the show, jump onto YouTube and type Shiny Side Out. If that gets you a little lost, simply go to shinysideout.net, and it's an easier way to navigate all the videos. And also you can click on that and get the show notes. So as you're watching the show, you can see what we're talking about and all the links there, so you can click on those in parallel to listen to the show. What was this? We got it just in time. Did Narara have Meki listen to the archive from last week? Actually, no, Justin, I've posted it up, and I'm sure you'll put some time in to listening to that hilarious show from last week.
I'm going to listen to it right after this, guys, while you do the roundtable. Mm-hmm. I imagine there's a roundtable, is there?
Yeah, I think someone was going to pick it up after this.
Okay, I might dial into that, guys, if I find the time. That'd be awesome, because I haven't spoken to you guys for a long time.
Oh no! Sorry, and just to round off tonight's show, where's the boom? There's meant to be an earth. Sorry, I can't do it with my headphones on. Where's the boom? There's meant to be an earth-shattering kaboom. So the little alien dude, hopefully from, if anyone recognized what that was, from Bugs Bunny.
Yeah, Marty!
Q space modulator.
is Marvin the Martian. Love him.
That's the one. So yeah, I'd like for Tones to ensure that we have the end of the show music this week.
That would be good.
And you've got about a 30-second notice.
Ba-doom, 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 ba-doom. Very talented, hey?
Hey, I know. So, looking forward to next week. Thanks, Mecky, for coming back on board. That's awesome.
Yeah, sorry I was away.
No, you were collecting data.
I was, actually.
Mm-hmm. And we did a whole show on it.
We did! Sweet.
I know. And one time, guys, what we're going to do is we're both going to actually do it from the same location.
That's correct, because Dave has set up his studio.
I have. And don't worry, Nighthawk, I did. It's all good. All right, if someone could play the end music, we're out of here, and we can pick up the next show. Anyone?
Who wants to pick up the round table? I will dial in if someone picks it up a little later.
Sorry, I'm just letting someone know there's no end of show music.
Tones coming in. Tones, you're my hero.
Thanks, Tones. Everyone, another Shiny Side Out next week with Dave.
And Maggie!